They said Bruce Lee was fast, but the truth is far more astonishing. New AI-powered analysis has stripped away decades of myth and exaggeration, revealing evidence that suggests his speed pushed the boundaries of human capability. What it uncovered challenges long-held beliefs, reignites old footage, and forces the world to reconsider just how unstoppable the dragon truly was. The man no one could touch. The first thing people noticed about Bruce Lee was never how strong he was or how hard he could hit. What unsettled them was something far worse. They realized they did not have enough time to understand what was happening. By the moment their minds tried to react, the encounter was already over. Men who trained with him later struggled to explain what it felt like. These were not unskilled fighters. Many were boxers, seasoned martial artists, and professional stunt fighters who made a living by controlling violence. They stepped forward with focus and intention. They expected an exchange. Instead, they felt impact before they even felt movement.
Dance around, he'll throw a jab, feint, kick you in the leg.
Their bodies did not hesitate, and their courage did not fail. Their bodies simply never entered the fight at all. By the time their eyes registered motion, the strike had already landed. By the time their arms moved to block, the damage had already been done. It felt as if time itself had broken in front of them. Decades later, modern technology began examining this same mystery. Engineers and analysts did not approach Bruce Lee as a legend. They approached him as recorded data. They studied high-quality film footage from Enter the Dragon, from The Green Hornet, and from his sparring scenes in Longstreet. These clips were slowed down frame by frame and measured against modern athletes whose movements were captured with the same precision.
You gotta put the whole hip into it and snap it and get all your energy in there and make this into a weapon.
Al was used to analyze every detail. What they found was deeply unsettling. Every strike has a starting point. This is the moment when the brain sends a signal to the body to move. In most fighters, even elite champions, this moment leaves traces. A shoulder lifts slightly. A hip turns a fraction of a second early. A shift in balance appears before the strike is thrown. These signals are small, but they exist. Trained opponents learn to read them. That is how fighters survive. Bruce Lee showed almost none of these signs. In repeated footage, his body did not prepare in visible stages. His shoulders, hips, hands, and balance moved at the same time. There was no clear buildup. There was no warning. His body appeared to launch already close to full speed. In several cases, the time from decision to contact was measured under 90 milliseconds. That span is shorter than the time it takes most people to recognize danger. To understand why this matters, the analysts explained it in simple terms. Human reaction depends on sequence. The eyes see movement. The brain processes it. Then the body responds. Bruce Lee moved faster than this chain could complete. The opponents were not slow. The process itself failed them. Film analysis shows that Lee's techniques displayed minimal preparatory movement compared to conventional striking methods. This placed him in a category that made experienced fighters uncomfortable. He was not beyond human limits, but he lived beyond the limits people trained to recognize. The danger was not his power. The danger was invisibility. This is why eyewitness stories match so closely. These men trained in different styles and in different countries. They shared no script, yet they described the same fear. They felt bypassed. They felt erased from the exchange. They felt as though the fight happened somewhere they could not reach. Even decades later, this reaction persists. When Joe Rogan watches the footage, his response is not admiration alone. He is a trained martial artist with years of experience watching human motion.
That was in 1993, and since that time, martial arts have evolved more in these 30 years than they have in the past 30,000 years.
His expectations are grounded in reality, but what he sees breaks those expectations. His reaction is immediate and unsettled. He is not watching a movie star. He is watching something that should not move that way. When cameras finally slowed Bruce Lee down enough to reveal what happened, the result did not comfort anyone. It confirmed the fear. He was not fast because others were slow. He was fast because he removed the space where normal reactions exist. when technology could not keep up. Film cameras used for the Green Hornet recorded at 24 frames per second, which means they took 24 still images every single second and then played them in sequence to make motion appear smooth. The cameras assumed that human movement happened in predictable steps. Every action was expected to start, move, and finish in a way that the camera could see. Everything had to unfold in a visible, measurable sequence. But Bruce Lee broke that expectation entirely. During the filming of the Green Hornet, editors started noticing something strange. In real time, when watching Bruce Lee move, his strikes looked perfect. Every punch, every kick, every trap was precise, sharp, and controlled. His body moved with a kind of deadly elegance that seemed almost superhuman. But when the footage was played back, the images no longer matched what the eye had seen. His strikes looked broken, they appeared chaotic. Sometimes the movement seemed incomplete, as if something essential had vanished. At times, punches appeared to disappear entirely. The editors were confused and disturbed. Repeated notes from the production team show that Bruce Lee was often asked to slow down. At the time, people assumed that he was simply moving too fast for the camera, or perhaps he was making mistakes. But modern AL analysis tells a far more unsettling story. When experts reconstructed the footage frame by frame using AL, the truth became horrifyingly clear. Some of Bruce Lee's straight punches and trapping strikes only appeared in a single frame. In some cases, the strike did not appear at all. His hand would be in a guard position in one frame, and in the next frame it was already recoiling from the strike. The motion itself existed only as an absence. This was not the usual blur caused by fast movement. This was something stranger. This was erasure. The camera simply could not record it because the movement happened between frames. His strikes were so fast that they left no visible trace. AL and motion reconstruction systems filled in the missing frames to try to understand what had actually happened. What they revealed was terrifyingly consistent. His hands moved from the start of a strike to impact faster than any camera could capture. The strike did not appear on film because it completed itself in a fraction of a second, in between the camera's recordings. It was not random. It was not a trick of luck. Every strike followed this same pattern. What made this discovery even more disturbing for the researchers was the precision. This vanishing effect happened in every scene, from every angle, on every day of shooting. It was not an accident. It was deliberate. It was trained. Analysis of his movement patterns showed another shocking truth. The beginnings of his strikes were unusually uniform. Every strike began the exact same way. There was no improvisation. There was no randomness. This uniformity was not choreography. It was obsession. Bruce Lee had trained himself to eliminate the visible starting point of every strike. He repeated tiny micro-movements in front of mirrors for hours, refining the first inch of motion until there was literally nothing to see. The beginning of the strike had been erased from reality. To make his strikes readable on camera, filmmakers had to slow the action during shooting and in playback. This was not done for style or to make the fight scenes more dramatic. It was done out of necessity. The cameras could not capture what Lee was capable of doing naturally. The film did not expose Bruce Lee. The film exposed the limits of human technology. At the heart of it, what terrified everyone was not just his speed. It was the realization that a human being had trained their body and nervous system to move in a way that erased itself from time.
So this is the first drill, right? Play with the angles of positioning. Try a little higher, maybe try a little lower.
A special nervous system forged early. The foundation of Bruce Lee's incredible speed and movement was laid long before Hollywood. It was built in a small training hall in Hong Kong, far from cameras, lights, or applause. At 13, Lee began studying Wing Chun under the legendary IP Man in 1954. Wing Chun was never designed for movies or spectacle. It was designed for survival. It taught how to win when every motion matters, when a wasted step or a delayed strike could cost you your life. Every movement had to be precise and direct. Lee drilled Chisao, the sticky hands exercises that train fighters to feel rather than see. These drills forced his body to respond to touch instantly, bypassing the slower route of visual recognition. He practiced chain punching, striking repeatedly without retracting. conditioning the nerves and muscles to fire in constant, unbroken sequences. Centerline control and elbow gate compression taught him to move directly toward the target with minimal joint travel, cutting away all wasted motion. Every motion became a straight line from intention to impact. When Al later mapped these drills, the analysis revealed something remarkable. They were the basis for the speed he would show on film. These exercises compressed the perception-to-action loop, teaching the body to act without unnecessary thought. The brain learned to trust the body, and the body learned to move along the shortest possible path, mechanically and neurologically, from decision to execution. Lee did not stop with Wing Chun. He layered Western boxing on top of this foundation. Boxing introduced a new element, probabilistic timing. Strikes, slips, and counters were launched based on anticipation, not confirmation. Footwork was not merely reactive, it was predictive. AI predictive models later showed that this shifted the timing of his strikes earlier in the cognitive cycle. Bruce Lee's body no longer reacted to what he saw, it acted before the event fully appeared. His nervous system began to move ahead of the world. He also absorbed lessons from fencing, a practice even more removed from Wing Chun. Fencing emphasizes distance control, explosive initiation, and stop-start rhythm. When Al analyzed his movement, it showed that how quickly he began a strike aligned more with elite fencers than traditional martial artists. Fencing taught Bruce Lee to start, stop, and explode with exact timing, turning every inch of movement into a weapon. These training systems did not merely coexist in him, they collapsed into one. Wing Chun removed unnecessary motion. Boxing removed hesitation. Fencing compressed distance and time. All three systems fused into a single motor language. The nervous system learned anticipation, speed, and commitment as one seamless process. By the time Bruce Lee arrived in America in 1959, his body and mind were already engineered for instantaneous action.
Unless human beings have 3 arms and 4 legs, we will have a different form of fighting.
An experiment without precedent. In America, Bruce Lee trained with a focus and intensity that approached pure obsession. Every hour of every day was devoted to pushing his body and his mind to their absolute limits. He did not allow himself rest from questioning, analyzing, and testing. But sheer effort alone does not explain what he achieved. The real key was method. Bruce Lee refused to accept tradition, habit, or authority as sufficient. He did not just follow the old ways because they were old. He asked why. He questioned everything. Bruce Lee studied bodybuilding manuals, Olympic training guides, and films of boxers, fencers, and other fighters. He watched how they moved, how they timed their strikes, how their muscles contracted and relaxed. He broke every motion down into tiny pieces and studied them like a scientist. His handwritten notes, now analyzed using advanced AL systems designed to recognize patterns, reveal a mind obsessively experimenting. These systems looked at his records and calculated trends, repetitions, and timing with far greater accuracy than a human could. They could see, for instance, how small variations in his rest between sets affected his performance, how each tiny adjustment in stance or muscle contraction changed the speed and control of a punch. Bruce Lee applied principles that modern sports scientists call progressive overload. He gradually increased the stress on his muscles, forcing them to adapt and grow stronger without injury. He experimented with short rest periods between sets, known as rest-pause methods, to see how brief recovery affected strength and speed. He carefully adjusted frequency, testing how often to train specific muscles or practice specific techniques to achieve maximum results. Bruce Lee even monitored early signs of neural fatigue, subtle signs that the nervous system was tiring before the muscles failed. Every training session had a precise purpose. Every repetition was measured and deliberate. Nothing was random. When Al classified his approach, they found that it more closely resembled the training of Olympic sprinters or elite fencers than any traditional martial arts system. Bruce Lee was not doing kung fu exercises for tradition. He was testing what worked to create speed, control, and perfect reaction time. He tested variables, kept what worked, and discarded what did not. There was no superstition, no ritual, no following the crowd. There were only results. Even when others warned him that lifting weights would slow him down, he refused to accept it. He trusted observation over rumor. Al, analyzing his biomechanics, which is the way his muscles and skeleton move together, confirmed his intuition. They showed that speed and power were not opposites. Power without speed arrived too late. Speed without power was harmless. True mastery came from combining the two. This belief led Bruce Lee to explore isometrics, a form of exercise that is subtle, precise, and often overlooked by martial artists. Engineering instant force. Isometric training is different from anything most people imagine. In traditional exercises, the body can borrow momentum. You swing, twist, or stretch, and some of the force comes from the movement itself, but isometric training removes that entirely. There is no wind-up, no stretch reflex, and no pre-existing speed to rely on. Every ounce of force must come directly from the muscles at the exact moment it is needed. If the body cannot generate it instantly, the force simply does not exist. Bruce Lee designed his isometric exercises to mimic real combat. He did not train in abstract positions. Every hold mirrored the exact angles of a punch, the precise chamber of a kick, and the range used to trap an opponent's limb. He built specialized equipment to make this possible. One of his innovations, called the isocane, applied resistance precisely at the joints and positions where actual strikes would occur. Every hold, every press, every contraction was a deliberate attempt to force the muscles to generate power instantly, without warning, momentum, and compromise. When modern analysts used Al to model his muscle activity, the results were staggering. By simulating his muscles firing under tiny sensors called electromyography, they discovered that Lee's muscles reached peak activation almost immediately at the very start of a strike. There was no gradual buildup, no warning signs, no detectable preparation. The curves of his force output spiked earlier than even the fastest sprinters pushing off the starting blocks. The explosive power existed before the limb had traveled a full fraction of its range. In practical terms, this was devastating. An opponent could not anticipate it. A strike from Bruce Lee delivered maximum force before the limb had even reached full extension. The energy moved directly from his core into the target without any hint of the strike's arrival. Al's analysis of his joint alignment explains why this worked. His wrists and elbows were positioned almost perfectly, leaving almost no energy wasted at impact. Every strike was efficient, clean, and decisive. This is the secret behind the one-inch punch. Al simulations that measured how force moves through the body over a very short distance showed that producing that much energy in such a tiny motion required perfect coordination. Every tendon, every joint, every fiber of muscle had to fire at exactly the right moment. Bruce Lee had honed this synchronization to a level that almost no human had ever achieved. The strike was instantaneous, invisible, and terrifying in its efficiency. The simulations also revealed the cost of this mastery. Chronic stress markers, signs of accumulated fatigue, and microdamage to his body are visible when reviewing footage and training records from his later years. Every ounce of that explosive power came with a price. His gains were not free. They were purchased through relentless, punishing effort day after day, month after month. Yet the results were undeniable. His body had become a machine capable of delivering unstoppable, precise, and immediate force that few could resist or even perceive coming. And yet, even all the strength, speed, and precision was not enough on its own. The final barrier that separated Bruce Lee from everyone else was not physical, it was mental. Eliminating the delay between thought and action. Al cognitive models consistently show the same pattern in human movement. Decision-making is always the slowest part of any action. The brain sees a target. It calculates the correct response. It signals the body to move. Even elite athletes, trained fighters, and Olympic competitors are bound by this delay. Every millisecond matters. Every choice introduces vulnerability. Bruce Lee understood this instinctively. He did not need Al to confirm what he already felt in his own body. Traditional martial arts rely heavily on fixed styles. Each style provides a set of techniques to choose from depending on the situation. Selection takes time. Every second spent deciding is a second the opponent can exploit. Hesitation can be fatal. Bruce Lee's philosophy of formlessness was practical and functional. He stripped away unnecessary options. He refused to be bound by any fixed form. This removed the need for decisions during a strike. Every movement had a single path. Every strike had a single outcome. The moment he committed, there was no turning back. There was no adjustment. There was no hesitation. This drastically shortened the perception and action cycle in his nervous system. Al analysis of his films from Way of the Dragon and Game of Death shows this clearly. In almost every recorded sequence, Lee never changes an attack once it begins. He throws a punch. He delivers a kick. He traps an opponent's limb. Every strike is fully committed from the first micro-movement. There is virtually no mid-course correction. His body reaches full execution before the eyes and mind of an opponent can register the action. Comparisons with modern MMA fighters reveal a stark contrast. Even the fastest and most skilled athletes hesitate. They adjust strikes while moving. They abort feints. They calculate angles. They second-guess themselves. Each adjustment costs milliseconds. Against a normal opponent, those milliseconds are survivable. Against Bruce Lee, they are fatal. By the time Lee's nervous system matured through years of training, experimentation, and repetition, speed was no longer something he consciously generated. Speed became automatic, seamless, and unstoppable. Bruce Lee trained to produce maximal force at the very start of every movement. According to physics, applying greater force at the beginning of motion creates greater acceleration, regardless of the distance the limb travels. Al motion capture estimates show that several of Lee's strikes took less than 50 milliseconds from the moment they began to the moment they reached the target. A human blink lasts approximately 300 milliseconds. His strikes were 6 times faster than the time it takes the eye to close. Comparisons with other elite athletes highlight how extreme this is. His initiation speed exceeds Muhammad Ali's jab. It exceeds Mike Tyson's cross. It exceeds the fastest strikes of modern UFC competitors. Al analysis of his center of mass shows that he generated force without a visible weight shift. He produced full power without the preparatory movements that coaches teach to generate momentum. His body ignored conventional rules and expectations. Now the question is, what final verdict does Al reach on Bruce Lee's seemingly superhuman abilities? The audit that strengthened the legend. Al does not speculate, it measures. When footage from Enter the Dragon, The Green Hornet, Way of the Dragon, Game of Death, and Longstreet is reconstructed frame by frame and combined with reaction time modeling, force curve analysis, and estimates of neural efficiency, a single conclusion emerges. Bruce Lee operated beyond the perceptual and recording limits of his era. He moved faster than cameras could capture. He moved faster than most humans could see. Al analysis shows that his motor patterns resemble a combination of elite fencing initiation and sprint acceleration mechanics. His nervous system and muscles operate with efficiency that most humans never achieve. No modern athlete reproduces the exact combination of speed, precision, and power that Lee displayed. Every strike, every kick, every trap emerges from this efficiency and coordination. The Al classification is decisive. Bruce Lee is not simply an outlier. He belongs to a separate category of human motor performance. His capabilities do not fit within conventional frameworks of martial arts, athletics, or combat sports. This does not make him magical. It does not make him supernatural. It does make him extraordinary. His training, his experimentation, and his understanding of the human body and nervous system were rigorous, deliberate, and scientific. He approached his own limits with curiosity, honesty, and complete disregard for artificial restrictions. The reason his speed still unsettles modern viewers, even decades later, is simple. We now know that it was real. It was measured. It was verified. Every strike, every motion, every display of force that once seemed unbelievable can be explained by the extraordinary combination of nervous system efficiency, muscular control, and relentless practice that he developed over years of focused training. Bruce Lee did not cheat time. He rewrote what a human body is capable of doing. He trained beyond conventional ideas of limits, and the results remain visible, undeniable, and profoundly unsettling. What do you think about Bruce Lee's story? Feel free to share your comments with us in the comments section. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.